Welcome to Julesburg, Colorado, a town of 1,000 people. I've spent my whole life here, always wanting more, and the summer of 2020 was my chance. Unfortunately, the world had other plans. COVID-19 canceled all of my summer camps and my trip to Ukraine. I had waited a lifetime for those moments, but now they're forever out of reach. As an opportunist, I noticed that now my summer schedule was completely free. To fill the void, I decided to embark on a weekly journey across the Midwest, far away from the confines of Julesburg, Colorado. My first stop? The Black Hole. Tucked away in the state's southeast corner, the Black Hole is one of Colorado's best-kept secrets.
We made it to Cheyenne Wells. About to pick my friend Taylor up. Got 2 more hours to go.
Locals claim that the cliff-jumping haven is bottomless, drawing comparisons to the greatest mystery of space. While the abyss may not be infinite, its beauty is undeniable. But the next adventure awaits, this time in Monument Rocks, Kansas. In Kansas, I had the chance to reunite with an old friend. While time may have gotten the better of us, the chalky remains of an ancient ocean floor could not be bested, even by the elements of western Kansas.
So won't you love me better? I'm waiting here. I need you now. Gravity can't hold us down.
The winds of the plains howled as we discussed our big plans for the world, knowing that unfortunately, this may be the last time that we ever see each other.
I'm waiting here. I need you now.
Amidst the bittersweet moment, I couldn't help but feel a little bit empty. But it had nothing to do with the people I was with or Monument Rocks. But the summer had just begun. No time to dwell, especially as I planned my next trip for Toadstool Park.
My first kiss was everything.
Near the South Dakota border, Toadstool is one of Nebraska's few hidden gems.
I didn't know what life would bring, but nothing could slow me down.
The Badlands-esque terrain creates the feeling that you're no longer on Earth.
I still remember how it feels. It was good and it was real. No, nothing could slow me down.
Having opted to go later in the day, the low-angled sunlight striking against the ash formations was immaculate.
God is some crazy messes, but then we celebrate, could reminisce forever. Those were the days, yeah, those were the days, yeah.
And as the sun finally set, we were treated to one of the most spectacular sights we had ever seen.
Those were the days.
Listening to music with my best friend as the sun disappeared behind Toadstool is something that I'll never forget. Luckily for me, I would get to do the same thing all over again a week later, this time at the paint mines. Often overshadowed by other attractions near Colorado Springs, the paint mines offer an escape unlike any other.
In those moments, that's when you know how much you can take. God is some crazy messes, but then we celebrate, could reminisce forever. Those were the days, yeah. Those were the days, yeah. Those were the days.
Colorful clays of pink and yellow illuminate the soil surrounding them in a way that is unmatched.
Hands to the heavens, we won't forget them.
The setting sun and the distant rains only serve to make our trip to the paint mines even more special.
We won't forget them. We're holding on as time goes by. Those were the days, yeah. 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 Those were the days, oh, those were the days, yeah.
Coyotes cried in the night as we shared more than a few laughs. And although my company was unforgettable, I decided to travel solo for my next trip. Devil's Tower. I have always wanted to witness it firsthand for all of its beauty. Needless to say, it didn't disappoint. A staple of the Wyoming frontier, many have attributed otherworldly features to the structure. And it may sound silly, but I truly felt that the tower had a pulse. I felt a connection with it. I felt love from Devil's Tower.
She said, I wanna know when I can go.
Even though I wasn't accompanied by anybody, I was reminded of why I embarked on this summer mission. But it also reminded me of something that was missing. Or someone.
I will go where the flowers grow, almond and peach trees in bloom. And he would know just when I want to, so golden and up.
Regardless, the summer raged on, and soon my first trip to the Rocky Mountains was underway.
Tulips the color of honey.
Near the famed city of Leadville, Twin Lakes Reservoir offers the best of the Rockies. The perilous Mount Elbert looms over the lakes, its reflection shimmering in the water. A few decades ago, my mother and father escaped to the very same spot that we stood and grew their love for one another. It's funny how things come full circle.
cherubim, seraphim soon. Come singing a song by the light of the moon. Oh, I wanna know where I can go back and get drunk with my friends. I wanna know where I can go back and feel home again.
And while skipping stones and observing the tide with the people I love was amazing, I couldn't shake the feeling of emptiness that had been following me since the beginning of the summer. An inescapable void.
I wanna be with you till the world ends. I wanna be with you till the whole world ends.
I guess I haven't been totally honest. I guess it's time that I tell you the real reason I embarked on all these adventures.
Dear winter, I hope you like your
From day one, I've loved my dad more than anything in the entire world. I have no doubt he feels the exact same way about me.
Cause winter is a badass name.
He's in all of my earliest memories.
Dear winter,
He was there on my first day of school.
talk to girls.
He was there when I won my first karate tournament.
I just hope you don't
He fostered my nostalgic love for the 1980s by constantly rewatching The Karate Kid, Back to the Future, and Indiana Jones with me. And he even sacrificed his way of life once we moved to Julesburg, Colorado.
I hope you like your name. I'm hoping that someday I can meet you on this earth.
My childhood was perfect, and I have my father to thank for that.
Dear winter,
In adolescence, my dad shaped me into a young man.
and even when you're 13,
He supported me in my decision to quit the football team. He was the first person to hug me after finishing in 4th place at state track. He was at every track meet, game, and concert. And once it was finally time for me to move into the next phase of my life at college, nobody was more excited for me than him. Even if watching me go was the hardest thing he had ever done. His graduation gift to me was a skydiving trip. Hurtling towards the ground at unimaginable speeds with my father was unforgettable, and a perfect conclusion to that chapter of our lives. Before and after the jump, my dad kept saying, "Live while you're alive." And on that day, we certainly did. So when I got a call 2 months into my first semester of college telling me that my dad was in the hospital, my heart broke into a million pieces. My dad was diagnosed with grade 4 glioblastoma, terminal brain cancer, with 12 to 18 months to live. Physically, my dad deteriorated to the point that he could hardly walk. As the months ticked by, I had to struggle with the reality that my dad wouldn't be by my side forever. COVID-19 did cancel my summer schedule and my trip to Ukraine, but I didn't travel across the West because of that. I did so because I knew that my dad wanted to see me do it all. God, I wish he could have been there to see it all with me though. I'd trade it all away to have done it with you, Dad. But I know you're so proud that I saw what this world has to offer. I love you more than anything, Dad. I had seen some incredible things, but so far, the summer had lacked challenge. I didn't feel accomplished. So I decided to push myself by hiking to Black Lake in Rocky Mountain National Park, the pride of Colorado.
Do you remember doing what you told? Caught in a daydream, being on your own.
One of the last true wildernesses in America, it was inevitable that we would run into some curious wildlife along the way.
Before we get too old, I'm not like all of my friends.
That distracted us from how difficult the hike was for a while, but eventually the 10-mile hike became overwhelming.
Each other again. I won't let this moment slip out through my hands. No one ever know it if we had a chance.
Luckily, the final destination of Black Lake blew past my expectations, ensuring this wouldn't be the last hike of the summer.
You make other plans.
we could embark on our next hike, we traveled south to the springs.
We know where we are. How do I treat you? You deserve the best.
They call it the Garden of the Gods. Pretty fitting if you ask me.
I'm not like all of my friends. I'd rather get lost in conversation until we fade into each other again.
Just a few miles from the legendary Pikes Peak, the Garden of the Gods is a perfect complement to the looming Rocky Mountains.
If we had a chance, I look when we're falling. Who knows where we'll land? Love is what happens when you make other plans. I won't let this.
While the formations seem out of place, they're compositionally similar to the massive mountains behind them.
Had a chance, I look when we're falling. Who knows where we'll land? Love is what happens when you make other plans. I feel something calling. I feel something calling. I feel something calling.
The Rockies seem to perfectly supplement the Garden of the Gods, letting them shine while subtly supporting their beauty. Almost like a father and son. The Black Lake hike got me hooked, and soon afterward, I had to keep pushing myself, this time in the Black Hills of South Dakota.
I like what we started.
In southwest South Dakota lies Custer State Park, home to the highest point of elevation in the United States east of the Rocky Mountains, Black Elk Peak.
You found me right here.
There's something especially lonely about Black Elk Peak, even with Mount Rushmore within a few miles and the Badlands an hour drive away.
I was half departed when you found me. I feel something calling.
A lonely watchtower sits on top of the world, but it's doomed to rest alone, with nobody to enjoy it with.
I won't let this moment slip right through my hands. Go on never knowing if we had a chance. I like when we're falling. Who knows where we'll land? Love is what happens when you make other plans.
But I guess that's better than not being on top of the world at all. Even so, I wanted to enjoy my next trip with good company, especially considering it was an 8-hour drive to the often forgotten yet electrifying Black Canyon of the Gunnison.
Dancing like fools right into the arms.
The constant flow of the Gunnison River for millennia has left an indent in the landscape deeper than 2 Empire State Buildings stacked on top of each other. The true definition of a void.
And through the storm, I ride alone. Walls can't contain me, nothing can change me.
Yet, we decided to descend into the abyss.
No tears will I cry from my animal eyes, unbreakable.
Needless to say, coming back out felt like an impossible task. And I'd be lying if I said there weren't times where I thought we weren't going to make it. But we did. We conquered the void. And that was special. As the summer neared its end, I embarked on a journey that I had been waiting to do for months. The Great Sand Dunes are impeccable. They make you question where you are, how they got there, and if you're dreaming or not. At least until your bare feet are scorched by the hot sand and you snap back to reality.
Why some things break us and some things don't. Like a photograph, hold this moment, 'cause the future.
From a distance, the dunes are certainly finite, but up close, they appear to be endless.
We'll lean on each other all night, on my own, as long as I go with you.
Unfortunately, and somewhat beautifully, most things in life are pretty similar.
As long as I go with you.
My last stop this summer was fairly nonchalant compared to the grandiose landmarks of prior weeks.
The sun is rising.
But Roxborough State Park seemed like the perfect place to conclude and reflect.
Divided. Whoa, whoa. When nothing breaks us and we're
In a lot of ways, the park is a miniature garden of the gods, with its protruding orange-red rocks. However, it's a lot quieter at Roxborough. While I was there, a storm rolled in, making it hard for me to capture footage. But it soon passed, and as it did, a lone deer emerged in the green meadows. He stared at me for a long time, maybe 30 minutes. Eventually, he broke my gaze and slowly retreated into some foliage and vanished. That's when I knew it was time for me to go. My summer endeavors had concluded, and so I returned to Julesburg, Colorado. I traveled 9,808 miles in 162 hours across 6 different states. That's enough mileage to travel from the West Coast to the East Coast and back, twice. And in that time, I learned a lot about myself and life. Most importantly, that unfortunately, some voids can't be filled. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't try to fill them. And maybe somewhere along the way, we'll find something that makes us feel. And isn't that what life should be about? Living while you're alive? So chase the things that invigorate you. Chase the moments that will make you cry in 10 years just thinking about it. You might not fill the voids you wish to, but you might just discover some infinities along the way. I love you, Dad. Even more than Devil's Tower loves me. I did it all for you, even if you never got to see any of it with me. And I'm glad I did, because a lot of those long, winding roads I took this summer led me to some of my favorite infinities. Although, My favorite infinity will always be you. Love, Gunner.
Walked down by the river that night. That night.